Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your match reaction for Manchester United's win against Arsenal. So good we beat them twice, 2-0 in normal time, penalties as well. But look, it's pre-season and how do you digest it? Super Sancho, Super Bruno, both goals really good. I thought there were some standout performances from that game. I think it's the first real pre-season game we've had, by the way, because it's the first time we've had all the squad together. And against an opposition that we know is very good. Look, that doesn't mean we're going to finish above Arsenal. I still think that Arsenal will be a really good team next season. We beat Liverpool in pre-season last year. It didn't make us win the league, did it? So, look, in relation to definitive, we're better than Arsenal, of course, that's not true. Having said that, there were some tasty tackles. The first half was very good. And ultimately, it's a bit of a confidence boost for some players, the squad, and it sort of says to Arsenal, look, you know, there's not a lot between us. So I think that ultimately you can take the positives whilst also keeping real about it. Massively impressed with the again, when you do these tours, we saw it last summer, we've seen it in the States before, the passion and numbers that turn up for these games. It's incredible to see just how the game is growing worldwide, and that was fantastic to see. But look, in relation to the actual performance, I think we put it in the title, Super Sancho. I think look, you've got to be positive. You've got to be positive. There's so much to be negative about, and quite rightly, when it comes to the ownership and the sale and the holding back that the Glazers do, quite rightly. But we're also supporters of Manchester United, and it sometimes baffles me that people make their mind up about a player and almost revel and celebrate being right. I've seen a lot of people going in on Sancho over the last few months and sell Sancho this, that and the other, when the obvious solution is that Sancho starts playing well every week and we don't need to sell him and we don't need to replace him. That's just the obvious solution. So when he scores a goal like that today, I think it's our responsibility to, you know, build him up, say well done, give him some confidence, because I do think it's going to be very difficult for Sancho. I've always been a fan of Sancho. I wanted us to buy him. There's no getting away from the fact that he's been ridiculously inconsistent. He's had some problems, as we know, last season. He will be given another chance, partly because Ten Hag wants to do that and partly because no one's going to buy him anyway. So when he scores a goal like that today, then I think it's, you know, it's confidence for a player like Jadon Sancho that hopefully he can build on that and, you know, become a really important part of the team. Obviously, pre-season, you've got to remember pre-season Pereira. People can do well in pre-season. I've seen it with Lingard, and they're never going to be part of the plans. But Jadon Sancho will be given opportunities, and he should take some confidence from that, because, to be honest with you, Jadon Sancho as a false nine doesn't work for me. He's not particularly quick. He's not particularly physical. You know, he's not particularly known for sprinting through and finishing. So, but he did all those things well today. So, look, take the positives. Bruno looked sharp. I thought Mainu had a fantastic game again. It was so important for Ten Hag to play Mainu. I think some people would have thought, well, why did Casemiro not play with the first team in the first half? And I think that was a purpose thing to give, you know, more experience in the second half with Casemiro in that team, but also give Mainu the opportunity to play with the first team. I thought it was a clever bit of management. Defence looked very, very comfortable, of course. We haven't got the goalkeeper. And I thought Sancho did well. Garnacho and Anthony did reasonably well when they got the ball. And I thought that we had a better game than Arsenal, and it was quite a strong Arsenal side. So I was very pleased with the way we played in the first half. I think this transition football that Ten Hag wants to play worked. I still think there's a lot of progression with people like Mason Mount. I still think he's going to take a bit of time to settle in. It still doesn't feel quite natural yet, but he had a bad season last year. I think we've got to be patient with that. Sakin says, Mainu, what a superstar in the making. He literally had rice for dinner tonight. Got to manage him well. I agree. And Mark, I will never forget Sancho and Rashford's attitude in the FA Cup final. It was unforgivable, says Chunk. Okay. And then second half, obviously lots of changes made. Interesting that obviously Bruno was captain in the first half, but Casemiro captain in the second half. I think that's resolution, if you needed it, that Maguire is out of the leadership team now. I must admit, even part of me, I was thinking it will be Maguire captain in the second half, but it's Casemiro, and Ten Hag has clearly moved on. And I think, you know, starting with underperformers in the second half, and 100% it's only pre-season, but I wasn't particularly impressed with Maguire. I thought Lindelof played really, really well. In fact, I think there was two players that really stood out for us in the second half. I thought Casemiro and Lindelof, you could see that they are players that are either in the first team who are knocking on the first team. I thought Lindelof and Casemiro were really good. Heaton did okay in both halves. Rashford was in the graveyard shift. But the second half performance, really, I was quite pleased that we kept a clean sheet because it was mainly Arsenal attacking. I don't think Maguire did particularly well. I don't think Brandon Williams is good enough for this level. Delot looked a little bit rusty. McTominay wasn't in the game. Eriksen looked a bit rusty. Palestri and Forson, I mean, hardly ever got the ball. Ahmad, unfortunately, went off injured. So I think that, Rashford in the graveyard shift, Casemiro and Lindelof would be the standout players in the second half. I'm just looking at the Jadon Sancho chance again, and I think Ramsdale needs to do better, but it's a little bit like Bruno. You take your chance, you shoot on target, you hit it well, 2-0. I mean, it's interesting. I think with PSY says, Mark, this is just pre-season, but realistically, is Mainu good enough for the bench? Also, transition football is counter-attacking, right? Yeah, more or less, yes. Arsenal look poor. I know it's only pre-season, but still. Look, Oliver, you can't take too much from pre-season. You just can't. Mark, reports Saudis are in for Martial, one for the morning show, I hope. We'll have a look at that on the morning show, Steve. But remember, Martial isn't even fit at the moment. But I do think that there is something else that's worth mentioning there, that the players that are not involved. And I think the issue with pre-season is, naturally, you haven't had any football for a month or two. And people start getting overexcited about cameos. And we saw with Donny on Wednesday a really good goal. And people are like, oh, let's keep Donny. I like Donny. And I said it at the time, and I don't like to be the voice of reason. I want to be the voice of positivity. And I am being positive, and I do like Donny, but it's over. Like, we've just played 45 minutes with two different teams. We've just used 22 players, and Donny didn't get a minute. Now, if you're Daniel Gore, that's fine because you're a young player and you didn't get any time. But if you're Donny van der Beek in your mid-20s and 22 players have played and you didn't even get a minute, having scored a good goal on Wednesday, I said this on Wednesday. It's not that Donny is a bad player, but there's no path to the first team. That there isn't any path to the first team for Donny van der Beek. So I think that's another player that we probably going to have to look to sell. And look, if anybody is going to, I said this at the time, if Donny's going to make it at Man United, then Ten Hag will be the guy that makes him. And clearly he hasn't. He's not looking to use him. So Donny van der Beek, I think people overreact because he scored a goal, and I do like him, and I think he can be a player that does well for Manchester United, not for Manchester United, for another club, but I just don't see a place for him in the team. And I think it's the same with a few other people as well. There's no real prospect of, Harry Maguire. I mentioned Brandon Williams. And also as well, what opened my eyes up as well is I don't get the feeling that McTominay's going to go, but you've got Mainu, Bruno, and Eric and Mount in the first half. That's 3. And then you've got Casemiro, Eriksen, and McTominay in the second half. That's 6. Amrabat 7. That's too many. So somebody's got to go. So for me, McTominay goes and Amrabat comes in. So I think McTominay's another player I'd be looking to move on. But I mean, is that Amrabat deal unlikely now? Is it? I don't know. But I think that overall, really, really enjoyed that tonight, and I'm really looking forward to the Real Madrid game especially. But yeah, I really did enjoy it, and I think with from a man of the match point of view, I'd probably give it to Mainu. Yeah, I think I'd probably give it to Mainu, because for a young player to play so comfortably with the senior team against a good Arsenal side was really impressive, and I think Mainu this season, let me just blow my nose. Don't worry, I'm going to bed in a minute. I think Mainu this season, at the moment, and you've got to be very careful about pre-season, as I say, but Mainu at the moment looks like he could be the Garnacho of last year, where you're part of the first team, You get little minutes here and there. You get little starts here and there, and it can be his breakout season. So I'm really hopeful about that because we need more midfielders anyway. Like, we need to sign midfielders. We need more midfielders anyway. So if we can have a young player that comes through, great, absolutely great. And I don't want to read world class and he's going to be this, that, and the other because that's just putting pressure onto people. But look, I think there's a positive there. I'd give him man of the match, and I think he looks like good. Sergeant says, why are you looking forward to the Madrid game? Because it's the next game. Slow Sports News. Wrexham's not the first team, mate. Wrexham's the youth team. I'll be watching it, but the next game is the Real Madrid game for his lot. Scott seems to not improve year over year, says might be. I mean, it's just Scott McTominay, Brandon Williams, Harry Maguire. You could say Anthony Martial, I suppose, as well. They're just, for different reasons, they're just very, we need to move on. And when you've got a manager that's done what he's done with De Gea and done what he's done with Ronaldo and done what he's done with the captaincy, as a fan, you've got to be positive and just go, well, I'm going to follow in the managers. I'm going to follow in the managers' track. We have got to be ruthless. We shouldn't be keeping players that are just bang average. So, yeah, definitely should be moving on. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. Really enjoyed tonight. Lisa and I are sorry you couldn't make it to New York. Cheer up, mate, says W. I'm not in a bad mood. I've just got a cold. I really enjoyed tonight. And keep an eye on the United stand because you never know. Sometimes we get an interview with a player on tour. So keep an eye out for that. And I will see you on the morning show at 10 o'clock. We'll be talking about that Martial transfer to Saudi Arabia and what the reality is around that. Thanks everyone for this support, and thanks for sharing your evening with me. I really enjoyed it, and take care. What a fantastic community. What a fantastic audience it was in New Jersey as well. And I will speak to you all tomorrow. Take care. Speak to you in a bit.